Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. Back in the original TBC, I quit playing the game at level 66 as a dwarf holy paladin, so everything I've experienced in TBC Classic so far has been brand new to me. With the end of phase 1 here, I wanted to make a quick video about my favorite dungeon slash heroic, my favorite gold farm, and of course my favorite boss encounters so far and what I'm looking forward to in phase 2. I'll start with my favorite dungeon, Shadow Labs. The reason I enjoy Shadow Labs so much was how challenging it was in week 1 for my group. I remember trying to go in early at level 67 because the entire group had gotten maximum friendly reputation with Lower City, and we wanted to make sure that we were ready for Karazhan week 1. But of course, that saw us wiping like crazy just to get to the first boss, let alone even attempting the first boss when he was 5 levels higher than us was a nightmare. So we, of course, went back to set the calls, got ourselves up to level 69, and then we came back at a more appropriate level, which then rewarded us with killing the entire dungeon in 3 hours. We got decent loot and a fair amount of reputation. My favorite mechanic of Shadow Labs by far is the second boss when he laughs at you. And when he's laughing at you, everyone loses control of their characters, and we start to do free for all PvP. Now, of course, being a hunter, the mind control AI just loves to make me use volley, so I'm never really a threat to anyone. Moving on to my favorite heroic. As much as I enjoy normal Shadow Labs, I would have to say that Steam Vaults beats it out. And the reason why I think Steam Vaults Heroic is more enjoyable is because it was one of the first heroics that I completed, and other than the Bog Lords and of course the Siren's Fear, it was one of the quickest and one of the most enjoyable environments in TBC. It was the first TBC dungeon where I learned how to skip mobs in, and it felt rewarding knowing we saved time. In my completely unbiased opinion as a hunter, Steam Vault has the best loot of all the dungeons. That never drops for me, of course, but it is also where I learned that I needed to start leveling my engineering past 300 so I could not only farm the cloud in the second boss's room, but if I could get up to 350, I could then go out into Outlands and actively farm the clouds there. Which leads me into my favorite gold farm of TBC. For the first month or so of phase 1, hardly anyone had leveled their engineering up to 350 so they could have the goggles so they could actively see where and track where all the clouds were at. Well, being one of the first on my server to get the goggles and get my engineering to 350, it made cloud farming very relaxing and an easy gold maker because everybody needed the most that came from the clouds, and only engineers could farm them. Flying around, collecting the clouds, and watching another group in my guild clear Kara and hanging out with them all at the same time was great. With moat slash primal prices declining rapidly on my server, I don't farm these much anymore, but occasionally I'll go back and I'll farm for a couple hours, and it's still nice and relaxing, and I can hang out with everybody. Last but not least, the real reason why I'm making this video, my 3 favorite boss encounters in phase 1. And I'd have to say by far, my favorite boss isn't necessarily a boss, it's more of an event. It's the chess event. I love the quirky voice lines from the pawns, and somehow after 2.5 months of clearing Karazhan, just now learned that even the elemental piece can leapfrog the pawn slash other pieces. And then what even blew my mind more was that I learned that the pawns can then leapfrog the elemental slash other pieces as well. I always begged a Gilly to come move the pawn so I could diagonally move out of the way on my second or third movement action. We may have wiped on chess 6 times on the first week, but it's still by far the best fight of phase 1. I just wish we could have parsed slash seen other people's times. My second favorite fight is also in Karazhan, and it's the boss encounter I always call the Julio fight, or more specifically the opera event Romulo and Julianne fight. The over the top voice acting from both bosses when they are getting attacked makes me smile every time I see the announcer say forbidden love to the crowd. And I still remember the first week we went in there and wiping 6 to 10 times, and the raid leader getting really pissed off at me every time I'd make the goofy noises that the characters would make. The final boss I wanted to discuss is Nightbane. And the reason why I like Nightbane so much is because of the mechanics of the fight, which I just realized that I'm now only talking about Karazhan bosses. I'm very sorry, Gruul and Mag. As a hunter, I loved that I could still attack this boss while he was in flight phase, but loved helping the tanks control the skeleton adds by using a freezing trap, and then also misdirecting them at the end of flight phase so they could get threat immediately so our healers wouldn't die. By the end of Nightbane and we'd finally cleared it, this fight made me realize that my class brings more than just big damage, it brings utility. Overall, Nightbane is a very enjoyable boss once we figured out the mechanics. As I explained at the beginning of this video, I originally quit TBC at level 66, which of course means with Phase 2 releasing, I will finally get to experience SSC and TK for the first time. I'm not sure what's in store for me and my guild, but I can't wait to replace all this Beast Lord dungeon gear with Tier 5 and other amazing loot. I've got an amazing group of friends going into Phase 2, and I hope we and all of you watching clear this content and continue having a great time into Phase 3, 4, 5, and beyond. Thank you for watching all the way through. Please let me know what content you've enjoyed the most so far down in the comment section of the video. I hope to see you in the next one.